Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your commissioner speaking, and I'm coming to you at the end of week 8. And it's Wednesday, Halloween. I don't do anything for Halloween, so I don't care. But anyway, guys, lots of things to talk about today. So, look, I have cheat sheet here, cheat sheet there, cheat sheet over here, and there. A lot of good stuff to talk about. All right, so let's get right started. Let's get all the basic stuff out of the way. So, I'm mad about a little something. I ended up losing to Mr. Gabriel by like 3 points or 4, whatever that was. Mr. Your quarterback got you. Speaking of your quarterback, check out this week's quarterback. That's right, Deshaun Watson. I guess he's waking up from whatever grave he was in. Perfect timing. It is Halloween season after all. But yeah, 64-46. That is our number one quarterback this week. Of course, had to be against me. This guy threw actually not a lot of yards. It's only 239 yards, but 5 touchdowns. I was actually kind of happy in the beginning because I think by halftime or third quarter, he only had like 10 points. So I knew Gabriel was going to be mad. But no, of course, 5 touchdowns. So whatever. That leads me to our running back this week. Yep. James Conner. Another of Gabriel's players. 55.2 points, 146 rushing yards, 66 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Ain't that crazy? Of course, against me again. Gabriel, you're gonna like go mow the lawn when you come home. Punishment. But yeah, good job though. Like just those 2 guys, it was over 100 points just on 2 people. So good job on that. Let me take you right down to our wide receiver. Yeah, we haven't heard his name in a little bit, but yeah, Mike Evans, 179 yards and 1 touchdown for 41.9 points. That is Terrence's boy. So yeah, Terrence, another player that we mentioned. We haven't mentioned you in a while too, so welcome back. Yeah, that takes us to our tight end. Check out our tight end. Travis Kelce, another big name popping back up again. But again, just like last week, not much going on with the tight end position. So Travis Kelce, it is our number one at 20.9 fantasy points by having 79 yards and 1 touchdown. However, we have a tie. We also have some dude called Jordan Thomas, tight end for the Houston Texans. Also tied at 20.9. But I'm giving it to Kelce just because he's a bigger name. But yeah, Jordan Thomas. Whoever that is. I don't know. Alright, guys. So check out our kicker. Yeah, Will Lutz, 3 extra point attempts, 2 field goals over 40 yards and 1 over 50. So that gave him 22 points. He's a free agent. He does not belong to anybody. So if you want a kicker, the Saints kicker, man, the Saints, they've always been putting out points. So unless you're Drew Brees. You hear about Drew Brees? 120 passing yards. How that happened, I don't know. They still dominated their game, but Drew Brees, 120 yards last week. It's pretty silly. But yeah, hey, whatever. Kamara has some points. Not enough to beat my opponent, but Good enough. Let me take you right down to our defense because we got lots of things to talk about. So move on with the normal stuff. Check out our defense. Yep, Cincinnati Bengals. 6 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 1 touchdown. 40 points. Also a free agent defense. So there you go. The Redskins defense had 37. Also belongs to Gabriel. I never mentioned the second place people, but I'm just bragging. Gabriel got all this big stuff against me. Come on, I scored 236 points, and I still lost. What are the odds? Don't you say that? But good week though. Was back to back, not back to back. Very close game, so not bad. All right, guys. That was our top 5 positions, 5 players in that position. I wanted to, before we give out our MVTs and all that, I wanted to talk about trades. A benefit of doing my video one day late is that I know what happened at the end of the trade deadline. There's only 3 names I want to, well, maybe 4 names I want to name drop out there. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know, but if you're like Alvin, Teresa, who else is pretty much like not very active with it until the last second? Because I know Lino's always in it. Cody, this kid has sleeps fantasy football, I think, and eats and drinks. Aaron, of course, yeah, almost everybody. But I think Alvin is not very active, given the fact that it's Wednesday and he's got like 20 people on a bye on his starting lineup. Name drop. But anyways, guys, so just to keep you up to date in case you don't already know, which I'm sure you do, Demaryius Thomas actually got traded from Denver to Houston, which my personal perspective and what I've heard from other things is that he gets a slight boost in fantasy relevance, meaning because he's going to be with the Houston Texans. It's a much better team right now. Come on, Deshaun Watson, or number 1 quarterback this week, right? Now it's got another fat weapon in Demaryius Thomas. Of course, they lost Fuller due to an injury last week, but Demaryius Thomas is their addition. What the heck? That is awesome. So of course that opens up a position in Denver. So you have Emmanuel Sanders, and now this other dude, I believe he's a rookie, Cortland Sutton. All right. Looks like Aaron already picked him up, so there's no need to tell you to try to go scoop him up. I would have scooped him up already anyway. But yeah, Cortland Sutton, he's supposed to be jumping into the Demaryius Thomas position, so that's really good. But think about this. Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and now Demaryius Thomas all on the same team? That's crazy. That sounds exciting. So, and better yet, they only gave out a 4th round pick for Demaryius Thomas. Amari Cooper. But yeah, anyway, another name I want to drop is obviously Golden Tate. He's now with Philly, which I think is a slight decrease on Golden Tate because he's going from being the number 1 receiver at Detroit to being practically the number 2 in Philly because they have Alshon Jeffries over there. And I think Aguilar also is going to drop a little bit because I think Golden Tate is a much better receiver and he's going to fit in the offense a little better. But I think Golden Tate, not much, but I think he's going to decrease a little bit in production just because he's becoming the number 2 instead of the number 1. And then, of course, Golden Tate leaving Detroit leaves a spot open, which is for Kenny Golladay, which he was already there. Again, another name I'm going to name drop in there, but Golden Tate belonged to Alvin. Kenny Golladay belonged to Alvin. So now, again, here's another name drop that he's already taken anyway, but Kenny Golladay is supposed to increase in fantasy value just because Golden Tate is no longer there. And yes, I mean, that affects mainly Alvin. He kind of slightly drops on 1. He does have Aguilar as well. So again, Alvin, you're kind of not stuck with 2 Philly receivers. So it's up to you. How do you want to handle that? Maybe you want to trade one away. The last name that was so some kind of fantasy relevance, but it's not even taken in our league. Ty Montgomery, running back slash wide receiver for the Packers, now went to the Ravens. So it doesn't really affect Ty Montgomery much, just because he wasn't even, he's a free agent in our leagues. I mean, nobody really has him. But he's going to the Ravens, who's already got Alex Collins and Buck Allen. So it's really, I think, just going to affect Alex Collins and Buck Allen a little more, just because there's another third potential, you know, competitive out there. It's like a three-headed monster now at Ravens. So yeah, so trade deadline was really exciting. We'll see how that turns out. And yeah, so like before I give you perfect lineups and all that stuff. Oh man, I really should mention this later, but I'm gonna make a gap here just so I could move on and tell you something later. All right, but yeah, this week I have Aaron, who is our number 2. Yes, our number 2 team in the league right now. Why is this schedule giving me all the hard people back to back? I literally had to face Cody, who we know he's freaking smoking hot right now. Then I had to get face Gabriel, who's pretty darn solid. He is the number 2 in power rankings, so that tells you everything. And now I'm going against Aaron. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks. Trying to kick me out of the playoffs or something? All right, see how it is. But anyway, I do have a new little, I'm going to call it this. Yeah, so this is something Tony from our league, Anton, what's up? Shout out. We kind of mentioned this earlier. You know, we got together over the weekend, and we're talking about obviously the power rankings and, you know, fantasy football stuff. And we came up with one thing I never actually mentioned before, and I'm gonna call it what I just called it: the team strength. Not necessarily the power rankings, but it has to deal with the power rank, which is basically how many fantasy points you scored the whole season in comparison to how much your opponents have scored. So it's just basically going to tell me and you how close these games are to actually whether winning or losing. Meaning, so if you scored 1,000 fantasy football points and then your opponent scored 999 fantasy points, that means that every game that you played is so close. So that kind of tells you like whether you're blowing teams out of the water or if you're being blown out of the water. So typically, obviously, the bigger the positive number it is, I mean, you're dominating, and every time you play, you're killing people. If your number is negative, that means that's how many more points your opponents have scored on you, and that's pretty bad. So the bigger the number, the best. The lower the number, even obviously in the negative sense, the worse. The closest to 0 is actually very close games every time. So like once you see the list, you'll see that between Terrence and I, we're the closest to 0, which means that almost every match we play is going to be neck to neck, very close. I'm either going to win or I'm going to lose by just a fraction of points. So, damn, it had to be me towards the middle. But anyway, check out this list. It's very, very impressive. You will see that, of course, Aaron right now is the number 1 on power ranking, but it's also our number 1 team strength team. So you'll see the numbers in a minute. Teresa, I'm sorry, girl. You'll see what I mean when you see the list. All right, you guys. So I think that was the main thing I wanted to talk about. All the trade deadline stuff that happened, and then besides that, we'll see our perfect lineups. Good job on the MVT. I think this is the first time we see your name this year. Oh, I cannot end this video without mentioning our donkeys, without giving any names, but I'm like, really? You go from the MVT last week to the donkey. And of course I have to like throw this out there. I don't know what the low is in our whatchamacallit, in our league has been over the years, but damn, that's low. And what impresses me the most is that your opponent was only a couple points away from that. Actually, last week on week 8, Alvin scored, I believe, 106 or 108 fantasy points to earn the Nice Donkey Award for the week. That was the lowest of the season so far. Obviously, this week tops it off, but your opponent only scored 111, which is only like 3-4 points from the lowest this season so far. So basically, both of you guys gotta get some donkey awards. So sorry, guys, putting you on the spot, but that is, I don't think I've ever seen that. 2 of the lowest ever facing each other. That's just bad luck, you guys. But keep it up, Michael. You'll see that your team strength and your power ranking is up there. So we're still close. Literally, like, well, besides Cody, now he jumped us and dead number 1. I already gave it away, but there's still like, I think there's still 5 games left in the season, and most of us are just 1 or 2 games away from literally going from the bottom to the top. So still there, we're still alive, and let's keep this moving. All right, you guys. So thank you for watching this extremely long, lengthy video, and we'll see you next week. All right. Peace out.